can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance.
Hello and welcome to Sports This Week, where we look back at some of the most prominent stories that hit us over the week that was. It has been a huge one for Liverpool in particular. The Reds managed to lift the Premier League title, celebrating a first. How did Arne Slot seal the deal, and what was different about this win? The sights and sounds of it all. We continue to keep track of the India versus Pakistan scenario post-Pahalgam and how it has spilled onto the sporting arena. Shaheen Afridi stirs up a hornet's nest even as India cracks down by blocking and banning social media platforms of top Pakistani athletes. Meanwhile, history-making week at the Indian Premier League, the world celebrated a 14-year-old setting the league on fire. Rajasthan's Vaibhav Suryavanshi slammed a ton, but his biggest challenge begins now. And Chennai are the first team to be knocked out of the IPL. Who's to blame for this horror year and a franchise that now seems to be running purely on nostalgia? And we wrap up with yet another teenager. It's a cross-country 17-year-old Spaniard, Lamine Yamal, who is being touted to becoming the next Lionel Messi. A fair comparison? Catch all of that on Sports This Week. April 27th, around 1824, 6:24 British Standard Time, half of football fans in England were looking for a place to hide. Specifically supporters of Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, to name a few, who were trying their best to plug their ears because the noise at Anfield was so loud that it thundered across England. The newly crowned Premier League champions Liverpool FC celebrated their success in some style after a 5-1 win over struggling Tottenham. And it's not like the Reds were winning the league after decades. They were EPL title holders just 4 seasons ago, and yet this was a moment 35 years in waiting. Yes, I say 35, despite Liverpool winning the league in 2020, because the 2020 triumph was a muted affair. Pandemic had robbed the league and the sport of the presence of fans. The Kopitis had this time come in droves, were involved much more than the 11 players themselves against Tottenham on the night. Because the story was not about the scoreline, about how Tottenham was routed 5-1. It was about fans proving why "You will never walk alone" will be the most iconic chant in football world. The sea of red was so dominant that a few thousand Tottenham supporters were hard to find. And the Reds weren't overpowering Anfield, but all of England was donning the Liverpool colour. Why not? With this, they levelled their biggest rivals, Manchester United, to the tally of 20 league titles. Once again, the star of the show for the Reds was Premier League's highest foreign goal scorer, Mohammad Salah. Not because the Egyptian scored Liverpool's 4th goal, but because he followed it up with a celebration that might turn out to be the most iconic one at the Kop stand. Sure, the 2020 triumph under former manager Jurgen Klopp was special for the club because it was a title Liverpool had waited 30 long years for. So the win was emotional, but the 2025 victory will be etched in everyone's memories for years to come, because the same fans who were locked inside their homes 5 years ago were walking down the Anfield Road and all across the Liverpool docks, reliving an even more special moment.
Just an immense atmosphere from start to finish. I've never seen the concourse so full.
So early.
So early, so prepared. Half an hour before, it's just bouncing in there. Absolutely stunning performance by the Red Men. So proud.
What made this win more iconic was this was manager Arne Slot's debut season. Following the exit of Jurgen Klopp, the club was expected to be in a transition phase, as happens across multiple team sports when legends decide to move on. Sure, Slot was deemed as a great manager coming in, but carrying over from a coach who was the cog around whom Anfield stood wasn't going to be easy. Yes, it did help when Klopp himself hyped up Slot's arrival. But it still wasn't going to be a deal done in stone. Slot's approach was much different from that of Klopp's. Here is a manager who isn't as expressive as Klopp has been on the sidelines. And for players too, they had been used to Klopp's tactics for close to a decade. That transition was neither easy for fans nor for the players or the management themselves. But Arne Slot proved them all wrong. He not only took Liverpool to their first league title, but handled the chaotic contract situation of Mohammad Salah and Virgil van Dijk with maturity. While the world kept criticizing Slot for delaying the contract extensions of these two stars, he quietly answered them with 2 more years of Salah and Van Dijk magic, all showing that he isn't just running a business. He's channeling the Liverpool emotions into something far bigger. Because while his rivals are splurging cash on buying the big money players, Slot is busy utilizing what Klopp left behind for him and carrying it forward into a deadly unit. Which is the reason why he has a happy front line led by Salah for the next season. A solid defense under the leadership of Van Dijk and a bench full of youngsters, all making up for a threatening Liverpool when they come to defend their title next year. The tensions between India and Pakistan are escalating after the terror attack in Kashmir's Pahalgam, and despite being on the back foot here, Pakistan continues to be defiant and stubborn, particularly their cricketing fraternity. While the PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi is making delusional statements and getting trolled for it, one of their former captains has sparked a row after insulting the Indian Army. He blamed the Indian Army forces for the crime in Pahalgam. And it is controversy's favourite child, Shahid Afridi, with his tall claims, who's been caught in the middle of this storm. Instead of condemning the attack or even criticizing his own regime for staying quiet all of this while, the former Pakistan captain hit a new low by shifting the blame onto India.
Even if a cracker bursts in India, they blame it on Pakistan. You have an 8 lakh strong army in Kashmir, yet this happened. This means you are useless, not being able to provide security to people.
What Afridi has done here is called out the victims for not being cautious enough, because according to him, terrorists aren't at fault here. It is the civilians who needed to be wary of these attacks. Not the first time Afridi has come out with such statements. Even during the 26/11 attack, the cricketer brought religion into the picture. And while he was still let off for his remarks back then, this time he faced the wrath of the social media. his former teammate Danish Kanaria to slam the cricketer for his illogical and heartless remarks.
He has consistently aligned himself with extremist views. In my opinion, he should not be given a platform on Indian television or within the country.
Not too long ago, India imposed massive restrictions on Pakistan, and the latest has been banning 16 YouTube channels in the country, including some prominent news outlets too. Importantly, former Pakistan cricketer Shoaib Akhtar's YouTube page. This despite, unlike Afridi, Akhtar has kept his statements on his platform reserved to cricket and around the analysis of the games. The reason why he has been a very popular figure in the country. Shoaib Akhtar's YouTube page being banned has reflected a much broader point here, that India will not back down in its fight against terrorism any day, in this case Pakistan, harboring and funding such acts, and that act will encompass not just strategic and political actions and decisions, but also hit where it hurts them the most, which is cricket. Because Pakistan is clearly failing to read the room. If Afridi deigned to make such a statement, PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi wasn't too far behind either.
India couldn't tolerate Pakistan's economic growth. The world must see how the country that claims to be the largest democracy is using terrorism to achieve its objectives.
The PCB chief, who is also the Interior Minister of Pakistan, has failed to do his proper research before making bizarre claims. But maybe we can do that for him now. Pakistan's per capita income is $1,300, almost half of India. The inflation is soaring high at 37.9%. The foreign exchange reserves have dwindled to $15.4 billion, which will only cover 2 weeks of essential imports. Despite this, PCB chief Naqvi claiming that India is jealous of Pakistan just sounds rather absurd. And the PCB chief was trolled online for this very statement. A loop that is all too familiar with Pakistan's cricketing system. A botched up ICC tournament, and PCB and the management will immediately try to find who to pin the blame on. And that ranges from the selector to the coaches to even the captains. Hence the musical chairs in the cricketing setup in the country. That has led to nothing more than more failures. Maybe Pakistan needs to learn its lessons from the grave errors that they've committed on the cricket field. Because if they follow that same tactics, they will face the same fate in the geopolitical world too. There's one name that a whole country is surely going to remember for a while to come, and that's Vaibhav Suryavanshi. I had to pinch myself last night as I watched a 14-year-old dismantling a proper, experienced international bowling attack. And I say dismantled because that's how it unfolded. It was not just any performance. This teenager put in the best performance in the entire tournament so far. We talk of superstars shining bright in the Indian Premier League. Here's a school kid who has completely owned the stage. That knock last night did many things. Let's get the records out of the way here. He scored the second fastest 100 in the league, right behind Chris Gayle, a grown adult Gayle who struck a storm that night, which is unforgettable even today. And this list here, of course, means that he's also the second fastest Indian to score 100, going past Yusuf Pathan and, of course, leaving David Miller as well. Yes, he's just 14. And this knock also meant he's the youngest to achieve this feat, going past the likes of Manish Pandey, who did it when he was 19, Rishabh Pant at 20, and of course Devdutt Padikkal as well when he was 20 years old. The internet exploded, needless to say, because this is unprecedented. The world was not ready when a young 16-year-old showed what batting really truly meant, what a batting masterclass really was meant to do. And this year, last night, probably came closest to that feeling. No surprises, it had to be another Indian emulating what a teenager Sachin Tendulkar brought out in a cricket fan way back then. There was no internet, no memes back when Sachin shook all cricketing logic and threw away the rule book. Here's what social media made of the storm that hit us all last night. And of course, all the best in the business, legends of the game from Sean Pollock, Ian Bishop to Sachin Tendulkar himself heaped praise on this Rajasthan Royal find. To think that Rajasthan came under severe fire for their dismal performances just a week ago, and one of the reasons was this, how they're more focused on grooming talents and picking up young sparks than really focusing on the bigger picture, which is winning a title. But that very process got us to witness what the cricketing world hadn't seen in a long, long while. And it is such moments, such unbelievable brilliance that really makes watching sport worth it all. It made Rahul Dravid forget he was in a wheelchair for a moment. And the one other thing that matched the scintillating knock and how Vaibhav was really toying with one of the best franchises in the league this season was the look of pure joy, pride and awe that was on the faces of every single Rajasthan franchise member, including Vaibhav's partner at the other end, Yashasvi Jaiswal, who was happy taking a backseat to just watch the mayhem in front of him. That was it for me. Pollock says this will have to be the best knock IPL has ever seen, and sure, you could argue if he was getting swept away by the moment, but really, how can you evade this? When have we ever seen a 14-year-old do this, create magic like none other before him? That beats a legendary show of might and skill any given day. But the tough part starts now. The kid who was just that, a child till some days ago, now has 1 million followers on Instagram at 14. When we were all still wondering what we wanted to be, what we wanted to do with our lives, comes a star an entire nation was waiting for. There are, of course, parallels that's going to be drawn and already have been. Comparisons being made. What can he be 10 years from now? Can he keep this going? Will he be able to handle all the fandom? Will he be overwhelmed? Sachin's brilliance, and I'm, by the way, bringing in the maestro here for comparison only because he's the other teenager to have really burst onto the scene in such a dramatic fashion and against a famed bowling attack. To go on to do something no cricketer had ever done before, become a legend of the game. I cannot possibly compare the two based on skills and talent. That would be unfair and incorrect. So yes, coming back to my point, Sachin's brilliance spread through murmurs, newspaper clippings, people scurrying to watch him play when there was no full-time broadcasters around. He was blessed to have jumped out at a time when social media isn't the monster it is today, when there still was some sense of privacy and you could hone yourself with some level of solitude. You were not constantly watched, scrutinized, followed and critiqued. There was a sense of sanctity that doesn't exist today, not anymore. You're not alone. And if you are a cricketer in India, more so. Solace and me time are words you will just have to forget. And that's the biggest concern for the young Vaibhav now. We've seen the most talented kids get waylaid, get lost somewhere in the manic fabric of a sport that is devoured in the country. We've seen the brightest get consumed in matters that are beyond the concerns of 22 yards. It happened to a young Prithvi Shaw. It's happened to many others. And mind you, Vaibhav has done this before. Under-19 Asia Cup. Top display, Test 100 against Australia, triple century in domestic circuit. He is not new to performing big, just that he's done it now in a league that is most followed and noticed the world over. So how can the young Vaibhav traverse what will be the most difficult part of his journey here on? Navigating the fanfare, adulation and overexposure that's bound to follow. And make a career, a solid career, materialize. That's the real challenge. The onus lies on those who picked and noticed and groomed Vaibhav for this big moment under the lights. They will have to make sure Vaibhav stays the course, his coaches, his parents, his close confidants, his father, whom he incidentally is very close to and watched cricket sitting on the lap of. Because Vaibhav Suryavanshi can knock bowlers out of the park surely. Last night was proof enough. But what about the Yorkers and the Googlies outside the cricket field? The most difficult task was not getting Rajasthan across the line last night. It will be now here on. When heroes fall from their pedestal, the sight is so blinding, you could be faulted for getting mesmerized by it. After all, it is a rare occurrence and one you least expect. The Chennai franchise broke plenty of records this season. Ones no one watching the Indian Premier League all this while would have imagined they would. The most successful franchise in the league, the one team that has only had one captain from the start to, well, this point. They did try to look beyond MS Dhoni briefly with Ravindra Jadeja. That experiment did not work out just like they'd wanted to. Ruturaj Gaikwad was touted as the cub who'd lead them to the future and to more laurels, with MSD still watching over him, but this season just hasn't taken off at all. But before we get to what really ails Chennai, let's pause to show you how disappointed and dejected the loyal fans have been through what has clearly been the worst year for this franchise steeped in glory. And can you really blame them? Chennai has taken one misstep after another, and every attempt at rewriting the previous era has resulted in a loss just that much more disheartening. It's a situation Chennai has never found itself in. And look at what's happened this year. They've lost 5 games on the trot in Chepauk. That's happened for the very first time. A lot of firsts, infamous firsts for them. Most defeats in Chennai in a single season. The first time that they missed playoffs in consecutive years, back to back. Lowest power play run rate in a season and lowest catching efficiency in a season. This doesn't look like the outfit that's won 5 IPL crowns. Now, it's been a season of horrors, yes. And you don't need to look further than these infamous records to accept that truly now. So what went wrong? Let's look at what's clear as day. The auction is where it all really began for this particular squad. While a few picks have paid off, safe to say most haven't. Suresh Raina, the man who's been by MSD's side for many years at this franchise in the past, through the heydays, put his foot down to say this was not the kind of squad Dhoni would have picked. And having said that, it just didn't work.
I think from the coach and the management, the auction has not gone well this year. MS might get a call about whether to go ahead with a player or not, but he's not that involved. Dhoni can't have this type of auction.
Well, that's what he said while speaking to the broadcaster, but it's not just Suresh Raina. Many experts questioned Chennai's selections and the fact that they just couldn't nail their playing 11 or their batting lineup even for most part of the initial stages. A lot of various views coming in there. But look, it happens with every team. It's difficult to get that perfect combination that offers the right balance and works both home and away conditions. But Chennai just couldn't get it right in time. And then your captain getting injured, that just had to be the lowest point because you did not just lose your skipper, but also one of the best batters this season. There were many other factors that contributed to Chennai's losing streak this year that just couldn't be arrested. A bowling unit that was largely reliant on Noor, Matisha Patirana nowhere close to the threatening debutant that we had witnessed, Woeful in the field with too many missed chances, no batting firepower really, and abysmal in the power plays. There's a lot that did not go Chennai's way, but let's step back and try to take a look at the bigger picture here. Is Chennai struggling to transition and look beyond MS Dhoni? He has to take charge completely, or it is a no-go zone. And if that's a valid argument that I'm making, then who will you have to blame for such a scenario to have taken place? Is it the management who just cannot think ahead of him? Or did Dhoni and the management collectively not sit and plan for the next phase in terms of leadership and a core group? You see, it may be franchise cricket, but it's not too different from any national sporting setup. There comes a time when every team, every unit has to think of the next chapter, the next phase. Mumbai were heavily criticized and Hardik Pandya massively trolled when they decided to make him captain and get Rohit Sharma to take a step back. While yes, that handover could surely have gone smoother and been executed better, they have now reached a point where it's all clicking and they are able to see the next few years. Sure, the absence of Rohit Sharma, the opener, will be felt. That's something they will have to plan for. But they decided to take that step without being swept away in the emotion of it all. Yes, Chennai heart beats for MSD. He's an emotion, an expression that will never die down completely. But a franchise needs to look at their legacy and the future. Did the Chennai think tank fail here in planning for a core group for its next phase, for life and times after MSD? Because you have to realize that leadership is cyclical. It happens everywhere in every setup. After one particular phase comes to a close, another one has to take over. You can also sense the exhaustion in the man at the helm and in the center of it all himself. If the post-match interviews are not telling you enough of how frustrated he already is, then it's the toss time chats that have been a stark differentiator this year. Just a few years ago, at one toss, MSD uttered the most iconic phrase, "Will this be your last season?" And he said, definitely not. They went on to win 2 IPL titles after that. Last game, Danny Morrison does the theatrics, lets the roars of the Chepauk fans go on full tilt before asking the dreaded question, does that mean you will come back for yet another season? And the answer is rather quick, I don't know if I'll be back for even the next game. MSD hates to lose, and anyone would quite obviously, but him particularly so. And this is a kind of situation he wouldn't have dreamed to be a part of, languishing in the 10th place at an IPL, a place that he's owned. But knowing MSD, he doesn't like anything more than proving everyone wrong. So while Chennai, coming back stronger next year with a young 44-year-old, cannot be ruled out, yes, here we go again, the franchise has to ask itself, can they afford to live off nostalgia and the fanfare that comes with MSD? Or should they shake it up and take a chance, see how the dice rolls? Because that's only when they can get off square one. Else the unsettling feeling that's being spoken about that has underscored Chennai's performances this year and a bit of last season will only continue to linger. The temperature in Barcelona was a pleasant 19 degrees last night, a city known for lovely, bearable weather almost through the year, but the residents still experienced the hottest day of this summer. Because breathing fire on the football pitch and wooing the Catalonia audience was a 17-year-old sensation from Spain's Mataró, Lamine Yamal. The youngster once again stepped up on the big stage and helped Barcelona draw with Inter Milan in the UEFA Champions League semi-final leg 1, leading to parallels being drawn between him and the great Lionel Messi. Now that is some very big shoes to fill. Being compared to Messi is sure to give anyone sleepless nights. Will the youngster succumb to the pressure? Because this isn't the first time Yamal has been compared to football ace Lionel Messi. The Champions League semi-final goal was just another reminder to the football world that the Spanish forward steps up when it really matters the most. He did that for Spain in the big semi-final against France at the Euros last year, and he's done it time and again for Barcelona through this season. In fact, he is the reason that Barcelona is in contention for a historic treble. In 49 matches across tournaments this season, Yamal has scored 15 goals, but what's more important is that he has assisted 24 times. So when he isn't hunting for goals himself, he is still contributing to the team's success through his brilliant plays, dodging the defenders, dribbling past challengers and flooring them. Ever since he was promoted to Barcelona's senior setup last season, since then, he has been the heart of Barcelona's front line. Sure, they fell short when they finished second in the 2023-24 season, but this year Yamal is showing us why. Maybe all those comparisons are true. Why he belongs at the top and is a once-in-a-generation talent.
Yamal created a lot of problems for us. He's clearly a talent that is only born every 50 years. I had honestly never seen talent like that, but I saw it tonight for the first time. He created lots of problems. We tried to double and even triple mark him, but then we were missing players on other parts of the pitch.
That's huge praise for a teenager coming from an opposition coach who just missed an opportunity to take the lead in the all-important semi-final. But such has been the influence of Yamal in the modern workings of the sport. He has left opposition speechless, shut down critics, and has left his fans in awe. Comparisons to arguably one of the biggest stars in the football world is definitely never going to help. Comparisons do not work as is, and this one more so. But Yamal surely looks like he isn't getting carried away with all this high talk. He's handling it better than some of the most established players going around.
I don't think the comparison makes sense. With Messi, even less. Because I don't compare myself to anyone. I'm going to enjoy myself and be myself.
Just enjoy the game. That's some good advice to the self, but maybe for a while it will do him good to not look at history or numbers, because at the age of 17, he is much more than what Messi and Ronaldo were back when they were teenagers, when they were 17. Yamal started early, so clearly that's worked in his favor, playing much more matches, many more matches than both Ronaldo and Messi, which is why he has 22 goals as compared to Ronaldo and Messi's 5 and 1 respectively, and that's heavily skewed. Assisted 33 times compared to 4 and 0. That is Ronaldo and Messi's numbers. Look, comparisons never tell you the complete picture, and this one is an unfair one to make, surely, because clearly these are different times we live in. When a 14-year-old can strike the second fastest 100 in an international cricket league. So yes, we do live in very dramatical different times. But this comparison just paints us a picture of the possibility of what really could be. And that's what we need to reflect on. At 17, Yamal is a starter at one of the biggest clubs in the world, which is why his statement that he doesn't believe in comparison stands absolutely true. And the reason why Yamal has come this far this soon is because he's kept his focus on football alone and at all times, no matter the situation, no matter the pressure. Even when his father was hospitalized after being stabbed, the sport came first. He, of course, addressed the issue, acknowledged and accepted the pain, and fueled that anger towards football. He's not just fighting defenders on the pitch, but also escaping those mental battles with ease. And then, of course, there's his connection with Barcelona. Following the Copa del Rey final win, he won Barcelona fans over when he skipped the celebrations to dance to Barcelona's iconic chant, "You a Madrista if you don't dance." He's a complete package. It's not just about the footballing skills, but it's also about keeping that intense rivalry with Real Madrid going, all at the age of 17. Quite astonishing, because in sport it is quite easy to get carried away when fame comes to your doorstep too soon. The idea of the whole footballing world adoring you is, yes, both endearing and threatening. When they celebrate your highs, they will be the first to target you in your lows too. So something Real Madrid star Kylian Mbappe as well can attest to. But clearly Yamal is showing why he is stitched from a different cloth. Reason why a talent like him comes once in 50 years.